First sleep, first road. The first time it happened, I thought it was sleep paralysis. I went to bed around midnight, woke up behind the wheel of a car I didn't own, on a highway I didn't recognize, going 65 miles per hour. The lines on the road were blood red. The radio was on, but it only played static with voices underneath, whispering just below language. And in the mirror behind the car, black headlights. No vehicle. Just two lights in the shape of eyes growing closer every time I blinked. The white line that never ends. I tried to pull over. No shoulder, no grass, just a strip of concrete surrounded by endless black. No stars, no sky, just the world carved into a two-lane line with no curves, no off-ramps, and no end. I turned the wheel. The car didn't respond. The radio snapped. A voice cut through. You are now dreaming, but not your dream. Part 3, Rules of the Road. Every time I wake up there, more of the world is missing. The first time, there were signs. Exit 14, mile marker 197, rest area 9 mi. The next time, no signs, just highway. The time after that, no dials on the dashboard, then no mirrors, then no windows. Eventually, I stopped trying to wake up, because something wakes up with me. Part 4, the car that isn't a car. The steering wheel feels like bone. The seat is soft in the wrong way, like something breathing underneath. And if I stare too long at the glove compartment, I can see it pulsing like there's something alive inside. I once tried to claw the door open. My fingernails came away with letters stuck underneath them. Cursive, ink still wet, as if the door had just finished writing me in. Part 5, Who drives when I sleep? I fell asleep inside the dream once. Don't do that. When I woke up, I wasn't driving anymore. Something with my face was. Smiling, but not with its mouth. Just sitting upright, hands on the wheel, eyes not blinking, singing something in a language I felt in my teeth. I tried to scream, but I was in the back seat. I tried to move, but I wasn't me anymore. Just a thought in the trunk. Part 6, the passenger seat is occupied. There's a figure that rides with me sometimes. I never see them get in. I just blink and they're sitting beside me. Head turned, watching. Their face is like melted glass, full of reflections I recognize but can't name. Sometimes it's my childhood bedroom. Sometimes it's a funeral I haven't attended yet. Once, it was my father's face. Not smiling, not angry, just disappointed. They only say one thing: you were supposed to stay asleep. Some nights I pass other cars, blurry, flickering, like bad edits in a film reel. And for a second I see people just like me, wide-eyed, hands glued to the wheel, screaming silently into the windshield. They don't react. They're not supposed to. We're not supposed to see each other. And when we do, the road cracks. Reality shudders for half a second like a corrupted video. One time I passed a bus. All the windows were filled with mannequins wearing my old faces. The license plate read, "Wake up 8, off-ramps that lie." Eventually, the dream gave me an exit. A glowing green sign, "Wake up now." I took it. The road curved into a tunnel, lights flickering above, counting down. 10, 9, 8. When I hit 1, the car stopped. I opened the door, stepped out, fell, and landed back in my bed. I cried until I saw the traffic lines reflected in my ceiling and the hum of the engine under my mattress. Part 9, People who don't drive anymore. There's a forum, I don't remember joining it, just woke up one day with the tab open. For everyone who drives when they dream. Thousands of posts, people just like me. Talking about the car, the road, the rules. Some have been stuck for years. Some found passengers who remember them from before birth. Some woke up with keys in their hands, and some stopped posting. Their usernames, now listed under a pinned message, crashed, do not follow. Part 10, A Man in Blood. Last night I found something folded in the glove box. A road map, hand-drawn, written in red ink that smelled like copper and burnt plastic. It was a loop, a giant circle of roads feeding into themselves. At the center, the terminus. I don't know what happens if you get there, but the black headlights behind me are getting closer, and the voice on the radio is louder. Tonight it said, "You're making good time. Don't fall asleep at the wheel." Outrow script, the archive of the unspoken. If you've ever dreamed of driving but couldn't wake up, you're not alone. Leave a comment if your dreams have roads. Or if you've ever passed a car going the other way with your face behind the wheel. Subscribe to the archive of the unspoken for more stories like this, Hour-long horror no one was meant to remember. And if you ever wake up behind the wheel of a car you don't recognize, don't blink, don't brake, don't look in the mirror. Part 1. The route wasn't on the map. I was on my way to a conference, just outside Baton Rouge, flat land, 2-lane highways, the kind of drive you forget while you're still doing it. I glanced at my GPS, the screen glitched, the voice said, recalculating, new route found. No highway number, no town name, just a direction. Take exit, follow Echo Road for 43.1 miles. There was no exit sign, just a break in the guardrail, and a road that shouldn't have been there. I took it. Part 2, Echo Road. It started out like a service road, this gravel and overgrowth, but soon the trees got strange. They were tall but too straight, identical height, branches perfectly spaced, like someone had printed a forest from a template. My GPS still gave directions. In 3.6 miles, bear right at the divide. Continue past the silo, stay silent. Stay silent, I turned the volume down. Then I realized the trees weren't swaying. There was no wind, no birds, no engine noise, just me and that perfect road. Part 3, the billboard with my name on it. About 15 miles in, I passed a billboard. No company name, no product, just white letters on black. Jordan, we're waiting. That's my name. The GPS didn't acknowledge it, just kept giving directions like it didn't happen. But I felt something change, like I had passed an invisible checkpoint, and something was counting. Part 4, the unmarked vehicles. I passed other cars eventually, but none of them had license plates. Space, all matte black. No make or model I recognized. Inside, figures that sat perfectly still, hands on the wheel, faces covered in mirrored glass. When I honked, they didn't react. When I passed, their heads turned, exactly 90 degrees. In sync. They weren't driving. They were following rules I hadn't been given yet. Part 5, the place where sound doesn't work. I stopped to check my phone. When I stepped out, everything went dead. The crunch of gravel beneath my feet. Silent. My breathing silent. The door slamming shut. Nothing. Even the air was still, like I was inside a vacuum sealed in some other reality. I screamed just to test it. My throat moved, but there was no sound. No echo. Just pressure. Like something listening without ears. Part 6, intersection that changes every time. The GPS directed me to a fork in the road. It blinked. Turn left, turn right, reverse, go straight, go back. All options at once. All flashing. All conflicting. The sign at the fork had no words, just a symbol, an eye drawn with static around the pupil. I tried to turn around. The road behind me wasn't there anymore. Part 7, the detour made of thoughts. The new path sloped downward. Fog rose from the gravel like smoke from a deep fire. My GPS stuttered. Its voice came back, but it wasn't the robotic one anymore. It was my mother's voice, reading off coordinates in a language I didn't know. Then my brother's voice, then my own, saying things I hadn't said yet. I heard myself whisper, I think we're not on a road anymore. I think we're inside something. Part 8, roads that loop through time. I stopped for gas at a station that didn't look abandoned, just touched. The sign read, Echo Station Number 3, founded 1956, eternally operational. I walked inside. The clerk didn't look up. His name tag said Jordan. I asked how far until the next town. He blinked, slowly, like it took effort, and said, You're the third version of you today. Try not to bleed too much. The last one made a mess. I left without pumping gas. The tank was suddenly full. Part 9, the sound catches up. I made it back to my car, started driving, then I heard everything at once. My footsteps, my breathing, the door, my scream from earlier, but all of it played in reverse. Sped up, slowed down, echoed over itself, hurt. The GPS voice came back, whispering, You're being recorded. Memory is the toll. The billboard returned. This time it said, Jordan Number 4, final attempt, and the sky turned off. Part 10, the terminus. I found the terminus at mile 43.1. A single roundabout, no exits. At the center, a tower made of roads spiraling upward. All the cars from earlier were parked along the edges. Empty now. At the top of the spiral road, a mirror. I drove upward, pressed. The GPS went silent. The engine stopped on its own. When I looked into the mirror, I saw all the other versions of me, stuck on different levels. Each one watching. Each one screaming silently. Each one behind glass that never breaks. The final GPS message, there are roads that never existed. Until you believed in them. Outrow script, the archive of the Unspoken. If your GPS ever shows you a route you don't recognize, especially one with no town name, don't follow it. Some roads weren't made to be driven, some were made to map you. Drop a comment if you've ever passed a billboard with your name on it. Subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more one-hour horror stories like this. Strange roads, forgotten turns, and stories that feel a little too personal. And if you hear your voice coming from the dash, don't answer, don't stop, and don't look back. 1. The man on the shoulder. It was around 2:14 a.m. Fog slicked the road like a stain that wouldn't dry. I was 3 hours into an overnight drive through rural Oregon. No music, no signal, just the dull thrum of tires over cracked asphalt. Then I saw him. Standing on the shoulder, thumb out, no bag, wearing a suit like he'd just left a funeral. As I passed, he didn't flinch, just turned his head and looked directly into my window. Not at me, into me. And before I could process it, I was already pulling over. Part 2, the first conversation. I didn't even remember deciding. Just my car was stopped and he was climbing in. No thanks, no name, just silence until I tried to break it. I said, "So where you headed?" He said, "You were about to ask me where I'm going." I laughed, awkward. He didn't. Then he said it again. "You were about to ask me where I'm going, but I'm already there." I kept part 3, things he knew. He knew the name of my ex, my sister's birthday. What song was stuck in my head, even though I hadn't heard it in weeks? He said, "Your mother's middle name was Elaine. You hate that name, but you've never said it out loud." He said, "You wanted to be a writer when you were 11. You stopped because of the thing that happened in the basement." I didn't answer. He nodded like I had. Part 4, the radio that plays thoughts. I turned on the radio just to change the energy. Static, then voices, then my voice. Not out loud, my internal voice. The radio was narrating my thoughts in real time, even the things I wasn't proud of. "You're scared he knows too much. You're thinking about kicking him out, but you're afraid he'll still be in the backseat anyway." I turned it off. He said, "That won't help." Part 5, the phone call that wasn't. I tried to call someone, anyone. No signal, of course, but then my phone buzzed, an incoming call, no number, just a name. "You." I answered. My own voice replied, "Don't take the next exit. That's where he starts feeding." The hitchhiker smiled. "Just a little. The exit you can't untake." The road curved toward an unmarked exit. He said, "You're going to take it." I said no. My hands said otherwise. The car turned. The trees closed in. No signage, no mile markers, just woods, and a feeling like I was driving into myself. Part 7, the place where roads end. We stopped in front of a diner that shouldn't have been there. Neon lights buzzed weakly. Inside, every customer had my face. Each version of me was at a different point in life. Aged, shaved, scarred, tired, hopeful. And at the counter was him, the hitchhiker, serving coffee to all of me. I turned around. He was still in the back seat, smiling. Part 8. Inside the diner, he handed me a menu. There were no meals. That just memories. First kiss, last fight, abandoned pet, the dream you had at age 6 that still scares you, the last time you lied to someone you loved. "Pick one," he said. "You'll forget it, but I won't." I asked what he was. He said, "A listener, a collector, a ride-along. I help you lighten the load. That's what hitchhikers are for." Part 9, escape routes don't work. I ran. Left the diner, got in the car, sped off. The road twisted, looped, led me right back. No matter how many turns I took, I returned to the same gravel lot. Same diner, same hitchhiker, now standing at the entrance, motioning to the seat I just left. I stopped trying and walked inside. Part 10, the final question. He asked me one final thing. If someone picked you up, what would they learn? I didn't have an answer, so I picked a memory off the menu. The one about my dad. The one I promised I'd never let go of. He took it, smiled, vanished. I woke up at a gas station with a receipt for a coffee I didn't remember buying alone. Engine off, clock blinking 2:14 a.m. I looked at the shoulder, there was no one there, but the back seat had an imprint, still warm. The Archive of the Unspoken. There are hitchhikers that want a ride, and there are hitchhikers that want a piece of you. Some feed on kindness, some feed on curiosity, and some feed on what you forget. If you ever pick someone up and they already know your name, don't ask them how. Just keep driving. And whatever you do, don't let them change the radio. Subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more 1-hour horror stories that know a little too much about you. And if you're ever driving alone but feel like someone's riding along, check the rearview mirror. Just once, then never again. Part 1. The drive that went on forever. I should have known better than to take the back road, but it was late. The sun was already dipping below the horizon, and the GPS said it would be the faster route. You know, the one that only exists on a map for someone else. The kind of road you don't see coming until it's too late. The first sign of something off was the stretch of road that never seemed to end, just blacktop under the light of a dying moon. The sound of my tires, the only thing that filled the silence. I should have turned around. But when I saw the neon sign in the distance, I thought it would be a good idea to stop. It wasn't even on the map. Part 2. Checking into a place that didn't exist. The motel was small, old, but somehow freshly painted. The kind of place that made you wonder if someone had just finished refurbishing it right now. I pulled in because I had no other choice. No phone service, no other buildings for miles. Just this strange, silent place, tucked into the middle of nowhere. When I went inside to check in, the clerk was sitting behind the counter reading a newspaper from 1982. He didn't look up. I asked for a room just for the night. He handed me a key, no words. Just the number 16 written on the key card. Part 3. The room was normal. Too normal. That unnerving normality you only find in places you've never been before. The bedspread was freshly pressed, the TV flickered on with no static, the air conditioner hummed softly as if it had been running for years, even though I hadn't turned it on. The walls were bare, except for one old framed picture of a family standing in front of the motel. They looked just like the clerk. Same eyes, same smile, same nothing. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. Part 4. The clock that ticks in reverse. The first thing I noticed was the clock on the wall. It didn't tick, it whirred. The second thing I noticed was that it was running backward. The hands spun counterclockwise faster and faster until they blurred. It seemed to speed up with every passing minute, and my stomach tightened in response. I glanced out the window. Nothing. Just the same road. But then I realized something had changed. I had entered a room that wasn't a room. I had checked into a place that wasn't there when I first arrived. Part 5. The door that won't open. I decided to leave, maybe grab something to drink or figure out what was going on. But when I grabbed the door handle to leave, it wouldn't open. I tried, pulled, jammed it, pushed. Nothing. I looked through the peephole. The hall was empty, but the floor seemed distorted, like the shadows were flickering, twisting around. I stepped back and slammed the door with all my strength. Nothing. The door wouldn't budge. The room had no windows, only the TV, now showing static with faint whispers. Part 6. The people who never left. After what felt like hours of pacing and trying to figure out what to do, I heard a knock on the door. It was quiet at first, like a polite knock. Then it came again, harder. I opened it. Standing outside was a man. He didn't look like the clerk. He looked older. And yet his eyes, those same familiar eyes. He smiled and asked, "Looking for something?" Then his expression shifted, his smile widening unnaturally. His eyes, those eyes that didn't blink, seemed to pierce through me. I slammed the door again. I couldn't tell if he was standing outside anymore, but I could feel him watching. Part 7. The same room, over and over. It didn't take long for the pattern to emerge. I was stuck. I knew it now. No matter how many times I tried to leave, the room kept coming back. Every time I turned around, it was exactly as it had been before. The bed, the walls, the clock running backward. The door was always locked, and no one would answer when I knocked, except for the man, the clerk, and the strange, nameless family in the photograph. They always appeared when I wasn't looking, like they were waiting for me to notice them. Part 8. The late night call. Hours later, I decided to try again. I'd had enough. I was done. I tried the door. Nothing. Tried the windows. Nothing. Finally, in desperation, I picked up the phone on the nightstand and dialed the front desk. The phone rang once, twice. Then I heard the same voice, the clerk's voice, but it wasn't the same. It was distorted. Room 16 is not meant for people who leave. It was never meant for you. I hung up. Part 9. The longer you stay, the harder it is to remember. The night stretched on. I couldn't keep track of time. Everything was slipping, my thoughts, my memories. I couldn't remember how I'd gotten here or what I'd been doing before. I only knew I had to leave. The clock ticked backward faster now. The shadows flickered, the walls pulsed, and the door still wouldn't open. Part 10. The latch that won't turn. I don't know how long I've been here. I don't know how long I've been writing this. All I know is that the door won't open, and I can hear footsteps outside, but no one is ever there. Room 16, the motel that isn't on any map, the place you can never leave. The last time I looked at the clock, the hands had stopped moving. I looked in the mirror. I was still here, and the door was still locked. The archive of the unspoken. If you ever find yourself driving down a road that doesn't show up on any map and you pass a neon sign for a motel that wasn't there the last time you checked, don't stop. Whatever you do, keep driving. And if you do stop, don't check in. Don't even look at the door. Some rooms are designed to keep you in. If you've ever stayed somewhere you can't remember leaving, drop a comment. Subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more stories about places that don't exist, people who don't move, and doors that never open. And remember, if you can't leave, maybe it's because you were never meant to. Part 1. The flat. The road was empty, black, and without memory. I'd been driving for hours, maybe days. It's hard to say. I was headed somewhere west, but no destination ever held its shape long enough for me to name it. That's when it happened. A dull thump, then a wobble, then silence. My car drifted to the shoulder like it was tired too. I climbed out and looked. Rear passenger side, flat. But here's the thing, I hadn't passed anything for miles. No houses, no towns, no lights, no cell service. And when I looked to the side of the road, there was a sign, just one. Mile 77.5, not 77, not 78, 77.5. It looked old, rusted, tilted like it had been watching for too long. But something about it, it felt deliberate, like it wasn't for me, like I wasn't meant to see it at all. I took a step toward the sign. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Not human. Part 2, the door in the trees. The sound came from the trees on the opposite side of the road. I hadn't even noticed them until now. Black bark, no leaves, just a dense wall of trees, silent except for that breathing. I backed away, but then I noticed something strange. There was a door, a real door, right there, standing in the middle of the trees, unattached to any frame or building, just standing, upright. Shut, wooden. And the breathing was louder now, coming from behind it. My hands moved on their own. I should have run. I should have called for help. But some part of me, a deeper part, a wrong part, wanted to open that door. And when I did, the rain came out. Part 3, rain without sky. It poured from the door like water from a broken aquarium. Cold, silver, and smelling like metal and static. But the sky above me was still clear. The rain only existed behind the door. I stepped through. Suddenly I was no longer on the road. No car. No sky. No trees. Just a crooked hallway made entirely of rear-view mirrors. Dozens. Hundreds. All fogged at the edges. All reflecting parts of me that didn't match. One showed me older. One showed me younger. One showed me asleep in a car I didn't recognize. And one showed me still on the road, staring at the mile 77.5 sign, unmoving. Was that me, or was it a version of me I left behind? I kept walking and the mirrors changed. Soon I wasn't reflected at all. Part 4, the men who forgot where they were going. I found them after the mirrors, sitting in a diner made of windshields lit only by flickering dashboard lights and cigarette embers. They didn't turn when I entered. They didn't blink, but they spoke in perfect unison. Did you hit the sign too? Did it let you in? Did it ask for your destination? I didn't answer. I couldn't. They looked like drivers, but their eyes were rear-view mirrors, reflecting things behind me that shouldn't have been there. One of them handed me a receipt. It read, "Exit never. Your destination no longer available. Thank you for driving the long way around." I dropped the receipt. It didn't hit the floor. It floated, then burned away. I asked them how to leave. They all pointed in different directions. Then they laughed. Part 5. The stretch of highway that burns cars, not bodies. Eventually, I found another door. This one was built into the side of a tunnel made of headlights, humming and warm. When I stepped through, I was back on the road, but it had changed. There were hundreds of wrecked cars, all aligned perfectly on the shoulder. Each one had the same flat tire rear passenger side. Same make, same model. Mine. Again and again and again. Inside each one, a version of me, sleeping, dead, screaming, driving without eyes. I checked the license plates. All of them were variations of my name. Scrambled, inverted, glitched. And behind me, mile marker 77.5. Still there. Still rusted, but now with something new carved into the metal. It came looking for you. Part 6. The forward exit. Eventually I stopped looking for answers. I drove. That was all I could do. But every mile felt like a loop. Every cloud hung too long. Every exit ramp looked like the last one. And now, even when I sleep, I dream in highways. The strangest part? Sometimes I pass other drivers. They wave, they smile, they mouth the same thing every time. Turn around before you see the next sign. But I can't, because I know what the next sign says. I saw it in one of the mirrors. Mile 77.6, you're already inside. The archive of the unspoken. There are some roads that weren't meant to be mapped. Some journeys that don't take you anywhere, only deeper. If you ever get a flat at a mile marker that doesn't officially exist, don't open the door and never look into the mirrors. If this story haunted you like it did me, drop a comment with your strangest road trip memory and subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more journeys that lead away from home. 1. I took a wrong turn and then the map erased itself. I swear I've lived in this town my whole life. I know every side street, shortcut, and hidden cul-de-sac. But yesterday morning, when I left early to beat traffic, I found a road I've never seen before. No street sign, just a perfect black 2-lane stretch, newly paved. No cracks, no markings. Just there, between 2 old elm trees I'm certain were never more than 10 feet apart. My GPS didn't register it. Google Maps glitched when I tried to pan over. It simply refused to acknowledge the road. Naturally, I took it. It was headed in the right direction. And for a while, it was fine. Flat, smooth, lined with perfectly spaced trees. I was the only car on it. But when I checked the time again, just 10 minutes later, I had no signal, no internet, and the clock on my dash had stopped at 6:03 a.m. Part 2. Something behind the rear view. At first, I thought maybe I'd just taken some forgotten old bypass. But the scenery started repeating. Same mailbox, same white fence, same crooked stop sign, half swallowed by vines. I turned up the radio. It only hissed. Then it spoke. A voice, my own, whispered, "You made the turn. Just keep going." I slammed the brakes, checked the back seat, nothing there. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, the road behind me was gone. Just a gray wall of static haze, like the world had been erased behind me as I moved forward. Part 3. The people along the road. I passed a man sitting at a bus stop that wasn't there a second earlier. He wore a suit from the 1940s, staring straight ahead, not blinking. I slowed down. His lips moved. "You turned on the road. That's your choice." Then a woman appeared, sitting beside him. She turned her head too far. Her neck cracked with emotion, and she grinned with teeth far too small. "It only goes one way." I floored it. But the faster I went, the slower the road became. Every mile stretched like rubber. And then came the buildings. Old gas stations, abandoned diners, phone booths filled with black liquid, and all of them with signs that said the same thing: "Welcome back." Part 4. The stitches in the sky. At mile marker 9999, yes, they were numbered, and I swear I didn't pass any others before it. The sky flickered like a busted LCD screen. Glitches ran across the clouds. And I could see, like the sky was made of folded paper. I pulled over, and that's when I noticed something else. My shadow was gone. The sun was shining. There were shadows under the car, but not under me. And I could hear something breathing, not outside the car, underneath it, like something massive was riding along beneath the pavement, keeping pace, waiting for me to stop. So I kept driving, even when the lines on the road turned red, even when the trees turned to static shapes, even when my own reflection in the windshield started mouthing things I couldn't hear. Part 5. The exit that only opens once. Eventually, I saw a turnoff, a dirt path with a crooked sign that read, "Exit. No re-entry." I turned, didn't care where it led, didn't care if it was worse. I followed it for what felt like hours, until I emerged, just like that, onto a regular road. Street lights, power poles, cars, my town, same as it ever was. Except When I looked behind me, the dirt road was gone, replaced by an empty lot, and my phone now had 13 missed calls, all from the same unknown number. I picked up on the 14th. A voice, mine again, said, "You left, but part of you stayed. It drives the road now. It waits." Then it hung up. Part 6. The final crossing. That was 3 weeks ago. Now I see that road everywhere. On the way to work. Behind parking garages, in the woods behind my house, sometimes in reflections. Always there. Always pristine. Always with that red-lettered marker, return trip. Last night, I woke up in my car, parked on the black road, odometer spinning, rear view mirror full of gray, and the radio crackling with a voice chanting, "Drive it again. This time you'll stay." I don't remember how I got back home, but I found something on my dashboard, my own photo, a Polaroid, marked on the back in red, "Mile 1000, this is where you left yourself." Outro script, the archive of the Unspoken. Some roads weren't built. They were remembered by people who drove them once and never found the exit. If you ever see a turnoff with no sign and your instincts scream not to take it, listen, because you don't know what part of you the road wants to keep. If this story left you unsettled, let us know your most haunting road trip memory in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more stories of the roads you never meant to find. Part 1. The first time I saw it. The first time I passed that rest stop, I didn't even register it. Just a flicker of gas station lights in the corner of my vision, somewhere past midnight, off I-79 between nothing and nowhere. I was running on 3 hours of sleep and a half-charged phone, and I only noticed it because the radio went dead the moment I passed it. Like silence had poured into the signal. The second time, I slowed down. Same rest stop, same flickering lights, same neon sign buzzing with the word "open," even though the lot was empty. Only this time, I saw someone standing under the awning, still as a cutout, watching. And the next day, I checked. There was no rest stop there. Not on the map, not on satellite view, not in local directories. I asked a guy at the real gas station 30 miles later if he'd heard of a stop around mile 197. He didn't even blink. Only shows up when you're driving alone. I had a dash cam running both times. It caught everything leading up to that point. Trees, signs, headlights, the hum of tires. But when I scrubbed to the part where I know I saw the rest stop, static. 3 minutes of complete distortion. And when it clears, I'm past it. Already back on the open highway. I checked again, slowed it down, frame by frame. In one still frame, just one, I see something. A handprint pressed on the inside of the windshield, 5 fingers, too long, smudged, and behind it a faint reflection of me. But not me. I wasn't wearing a hat that night. The figure was. Part 3, the rules. The third time it showed up, it wasn't on I-79. It was on Route 11, over 200 miles from where I'd last seen it. Same sign, same man under the awning, same flickering open. But this time, something was different. Like there were words painted under the sign in red marker. "Do not enter if anyone will notice you're gone." I kept driving, but I passed it again. 15 minutes later, same stop, same sign, same figure. Now the sign read, "Only one entry per nightmare." I floored it. My phone lost signal, my headlights began to dim, and on my dash where the odometer should be, new letters appeared, slowly forming one at a time. "Slow down, or you'll miss your chance." Part 4. Eventually, curiosity won. I stopped, parked, entered the rest stop. The air smelled like static and old paper. The lights inside buzzed like they were trying to form words. It looked like a normal rest stop on the surface. Vending machines, bathroom doors, maps on the wall, but the maps had no names, just lines. Dead-end highways, exit ramps marked forgotten or rewritten. The vending machines didn't take cash or card, only memories. I know that sounds insane, but when I reached to press a button, the display asked, "Which memory will you trade for a snack?" Below that, something bitter, something sweet, something you were sure you still had. I backed away, but the bathroom door swung open, and I heard my own voice whisper, "It's been hours, they're starting to worry." Part 5. In the back of the rest stop was a lounge, dimly lit, smelled like motel air and forgotten time. That's where I saw them, the other drivers, not talking, not blinking, just watching an old CRT TV flicker with black and white highway footage, each frame slower than the last. Some were muttering. One woman whispered over and over, "I only meant to stop for coffee. I only meant to stop for coffee." A man scribbled on a napkin with shaking hands. "There's no clocks here. If you sleep, you lose your name." I tried to leave, but the door had changed. It now led into a hallway with a giant rearview mirror at the end. In that mirror, I saw myself walking toward me, except he was already holding car keys, already had my expression, already looked free. Part 6. The price of rest. I don't remember how I left. All I know is I woke up on the side of the highway, car parked perfectly, keys in the ignition, gas tank full. But my phone was gone. The dash cam melted inside. And on the seat beside me, a piece of paper. "We took something you don't remember losing. You're free. For now." I've checked. Something is missing. I don't know what it is, but there's a blank space in my mind that wasn't always there. Like a missing chapter in a book I know I once loved. Sometimes when I pass a stretch of empty road, I hear the buzz of a neon open sign flicker into life behind me. And once in a while, I wake up gripping the wheel with no idea where I'm driving. Outro script. Some places aren't meant to be mapped. They don't exist on GPS, and they only appear when your thoughts are quiet enough to let them in. If you ever see a rest stop you don't remember being there, and you're completely alone, drive past it. Because what you lose inside might be something you don't realize you need until it's far too late. If this story kept you looking over your shoulder, leave a comment with the strangest stop you've ever made while driving alone. And subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more stories you're only meant to hear once. With the storm. It started with the storm. I had been driving just like any other day when the clouds rolled in. The kind of clouds that look like they're hiding something, but you can't figure out what. Dark, thick, swirling, like they were alive, folding in on themselves. I pulled over to the side of the road to wait it out. I didn't want to drive in that. I'd learned that much from years of living in places like this. The first raindrop hit the windshield with a thud, then another, then another. But it wasn't like the rain I'd known before. No, this wasn't rain. This was something else, something unnatural. The droplets were too large, too loud, too heavy, and as soon as they hit the glass, they didn't slide down. They stayed, stuck, frozen in place. I tried to wipe the glass, but the rain didn't budge. The storm raged for what felt like hours, and the rain kept falling, but I couldn't tell if I was getting wet. I couldn't tell if it was even real. The waiting room. I decided to leave the car behind, my hands trembling too much to drive. The rain didn't stop. It didn't even slow down. I kept walking, not sure where I was going. The ground wasn't wet, but the rain kept falling. Soon, I stumbled across an old gas station. It wasn't on any map I'd seen, and I couldn't remember passing it, but it felt like it had always been here. The lights inside flickered erratically. I could hear the buzzing of the neon sign overhead, like a sound that didn't fit the world. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, my shoes making no sound on the wet floor. The clerk behind the counter didn't look up. He was reading something, but I couldn't make out what. There were no other customers, just the sound of the rain against the windows. I felt a sudden impulse to ask about the weather, about the rain. It felt so strange to be standing there, in the middle of it, unable to tell if it was real. But I stopped myself before the words left my mouth. I didn't want to know the answer. The air inside the gas station was stale, heavy. The room smelled like old gasoline and dust, and yet it wasn't unpleasant. The rain outside continued to hammer against the windows. Thud, thud, thud. Part 3. The feeling of something moving. I sat down on one of the benches near the window, trying to collect my thoughts. Something was wrong. I knew it, deep down. The storm, the rain, the way everything felt off like a dream you couldn't wake up from. The man at the counter still hadn't moved. It was as though he didn't even know I was there. The strange thing was, I didn't feel wet, not even a little. And yet the rain was still falling. I stood up and walked toward the door, but something inside me hesitated. I turned back to look at the clerk. He was still sitting there, reading. The buzzing of the neon lights seemed louder now, almost deafening. I wanted to say something to him, to ask if he'd noticed anything strange about the storm, but the words wouldn't come. When I opened the door to leave, I saw the rain again. It was still falling, but it wasn't just falling. It was shifting. I could feel the pressure around me, like the air had become thicker. The sound of the rain was constant, but the droplets seemed to be moving, shifting in unnatural ways, as if the rain didn't belong here at all. It hit the ground, splashing in place. And for a second, I thought I saw something. Something in the rain. Something that was moving, but wasn't supposed to be. Part 4. The world outside. I stepped outside. The rain was cold, too cold. But the ground was still dry. I couldn't feel a drop on my skin. I walked slowly down the road that led away from the gas station. The farther I went, the more I could feel it, the shifting air, the rain that never stopped falling. There were no other cars, no other people, just me, walking down an endless road. Every few minutes, I looked back at the gas station. It was always there, but it never seemed to get any closer. I wasn't walking forward. I was walking in circles. The rain didn't let up. The clouds didn't move. I couldn't tell how much time had passed or how far I'd walked, but the rain, the strange rain, kept falling. And then I heard it, the sound of someone walking behind me. It was faint at first, footsteps, soft and deliberate. Not like the rain, not like the sound of my own feet. This was something else. I turned, but there was nothing. No one, just the road and the rain. Part 5. I tried to leave, but I couldn't. The road never changed. The gas station was always there, a few hundred yards behind me, but it didn't get closer. It didn't get farther away. It just stayed, like I was trapped in some kind of loop. I turned around again, but the rain, it didn't feel right anymore. It felt heavy, almost oppressive. It felt like it was watching me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone in it. I started running, faster and faster. But the road didn't end. It just stretched on. The gas station, the clerk, the road, the rain, they all blurred together. I could hear my own breath, but I couldn't escape it. I stopped, out of breath, gasping for air. And then I looked up. I saw it clearly now. The rain wasn't just falling, it was folding into itself, twisting like it was being pulled into some invisible vortex. There was something at the center of it, something pulling like it was drawing me in. The rain didn't just fall, it was swallowing. Part 6. The final stairway. My foot didn't hit the ground. I didn't feel the earth beneath me. I just fell. But as I fell, I never touched the ground. The rain fell around me, swirling like a whirlwind. The sound of it was deafening. The sensation of falling was endless. The road, the gas station, the clerk, they all faded away. And in the moment before everything went black, I realized one thing. I had never been wet. The archive of the unspoken. The storm will always find you, even if you can't feel it. When you hear the rain that never touches the ground, you might want to stay inside, but if you leave, remember, you may never be able to leave it behind. Drop a comment if you've ever walked into a storm that never seemed to end, and remember to subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more stories that blur the line between reality and the things we wish weren't real. There's a stretch of I-88 in western Illinois they don't mark on newer maps. Locals call it the dead highway. You can't find it unless you're already lost, or unless it finds you. I was 5 hours into a solo cross-country drive, trying to shave off time, phone dead, GPS glitching, no signal for miles. Then I saw it, a rusted green exit sign with no name, just a crooked arrow and a number, 1971. At first I thought it was a joke, until I took the exit, and the sky turned the color of old paper. Part 2, Welcome to New Lavin. The sign was barely legible. Welcome to Lation. The question marks weren't graffiti. They were printed, like the sign had given up. The road through town was smooth, too smooth. No potholes, no wear. Asphalt like it had just been poured yesterday, except it hadn't, because the paint on the curbs was peeling like old sunburn. Shops lined the street, but their windows were painted black from the inside. Not boarded, not broken, just blacked out like they didn't want to be seen. Then the church bell rang, but there was no church. Part 3, The Faces in the Glass. I slowed down when I passed the gas station. There were no pumps, just the building. White tile, big front windows, and shapes behind the glass. People. Maybe. They didn't move. They didn't blink. Just silhouettes, standing inches from the glass, staring out into nothing, perfectly still. I parked across the street, engine idling, raised my phone to take a picture. My camera opened in selfie mode. Behind me, on the screen, the inside of the gas station, lit, full color, and one of the figures in the window smiled. I dropped the phone. When I looked back up, the windows were empty. A town on loop. New Lavin isn't abandoned, it's rehearsing. Every block I drove through felt like a film set waiting for the cue to start. A barber pole spinning but the shop locked, a laundromat humming without power, a school bus idling at a corner where no children waited, and every so often I'd see someone just standing, facing away, mid-step, frozen. They were wrong, not uncanny, not glitching, just too patient, like they weren't stuck. They were waiting for you to see them. Part 5, the tape deck in the diner. I found the diner by accident. It was the only open door I saw. It wasn't warm inside, or cold. It just was. The booths were covered in plastic. The menu was from another decade, prices from 1963, and every single seat was facing the same way, toward a little jukebox unit in the back corner, still playing a cassette on loop. I swear to you, I swear, this is what the tape said in a voice that didn't sound human. You are not here now. You are not here now. Don't forget to forget. I didn't touch the tape, didn't eat, didn't sit down. But when I left the diner, it was night. Part 6. The town that's still 1971, I checked my watch. But outside, the sky was starless black, the kind of black that doesn't end. The town had changed, or maybe I had. Storefronts were boarded now, the streets had deep cracks that pulsed when I walked, and the signs, every sign had been replaced with versions of themselves, but wrong. Dear customer, you're still inside. Please return your body to the nearest host. New Lavin is sinking. Enjoy your stay. I ran. I don't even remember where, but I ended up at the motel. Part 7. There were no keys. The door opened when I touched it. Inside, one bed, one mirror, one rotary phone, red, already off the hook, and on the wall above the bed, carved into the paint, they said we could leave. We never asked when. I tried to sleep. I think I did, because I woke up to the sound of my own voice, coming from the phone, repeating a phrase over and over. You never left, you never left, you never left. Then the dial tone began to scream. Part 8, the exit that doesn't exit. I left the motel, or tried to, but every road out of town curved back inward. No matter how fast I drove, how many turns I took, I always passed the same mailbox. C. Gardner, 16 Glasswall Ave. I passed it 11 times. On the 12th, the mailbox was open. Inside, a letter, dated June 18, 1971, postmarked New Lavin. To whom it may concern, if you found this, you're stuck too. The town feeds off attention. Don't watch. Don't listen. Don't believe anything that pretends to know your name. The people here used to be us. They're not anymore. That's when the sky tore open. That's when the sky tore open. The empty parade. There was music. Brass band. Warped. Wobbling in pitch like a melted record. I stood in the center of Main Street and watched a parade with no people in it. Just floats. All empty. All moving. Signs like 50 years of never leaving. You are the guest of honor. 1971 never ends. And trailing behind them, dozens of old televisions stacked high on shopping carts. Every single screen showed me, walking, driving, sleeping, crying. New Lavin had recorded everything. It had me on tape, and it was playing me back. Part 10, the inversion. There's a moment you know it's over, but not in the way you hope. I stopped running. I turned and faced the diner again, and found myself inside it, waving out. Not a reflection. A version of me still sitting in the booth, eating food I never ordered, talking to someone I couldn't see. The cassette kept playing. The town kept looping. And then I understood. New Lavin isn't missing. It's recorded. A loop so perfect it doesn't need the reel anymore. It just needs new actors, and I took the wrong exit. Outrow script, the archive of the Unspoken. If you hear distant music on an empty road, don't slow down. If a town shows up where it shouldn't, keep driving. And never follow the signs with numbers. Let us know in the comments if you've ever almost taken the wrong exit, or worse, if you already have. Subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more stories like this, long-form horror you weren't supposed to remember. And if you ever pass through a place called New Lavin, don't watch the parade. 1. The rules. There were rules. Of course there were rules. They were taped to the wall of the surveillance booth like some forgotten sheet of commandments. Room 109 Surveillance Protocol, Level C. Do not attempt entry unless explicitly instructed. Maintain visual contact with camera feed at all times between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. If the feed cuts out, immediately log the timestamp. If you see movement, do not look away. Do not speak to the camera. Do not knock on the door. Do not acknowledge sounds coming from inside room 109. If you see your own face on the screen, turn off the monitor and leave. That last one made me laugh. At the time, the room didn't look like much on the monitor, just bare tile floors, discolored walls, and that 1 week overhead bulb. No windows, no furniture, nothing to suggest it was even being used. But something about the camera feed made my teeth itch. The picture was always just a little too grainy. Like the static didn't want to stay still. Sometimes the corners of the frame would twitch, warping in ways you could almost explain as compression glitches. Almost. I sat in that booth for 8 hours, night after night, staring at a room that stared back. Part 2, the first glitch. It was night 5 when the first glitch hit. Time. I remember because the monitor froze for exactly 6 seconds. Not black screen, not cut to static, just like a paused video. Then it resumed, but the room wasn't the same. The camera angle was slightly higher than it had been. The overhead light flickered slower, and in the bottom right corner of the room, there was a shape. Not a person, not exactly, just a darker shadow than the rest. Like something had been sitting there for a long time, absorbing the room around it. I stared at that corner for the rest of the shift. When I came back the next night, it was gone. Part 3, scratching. On night 10, I heard it. At first, I thought it was interference, that kind of hissing static you get when electronics misbehave. But the sound wasn't coming from the monitor. It was coming from inside the wall, not behind the monitor. Behind me, a faint, steady scratching as if nails were tracing the inside of the wall in long, lazy circles. Not frantic, not trapped. Patient. Like whatever was inside had nowhere else to be. The sound didn't stop when I turned around. In fact, it seemed to move with me, like it knew where I was. I didn't call anyone. I didn't file a report. Hell, I didn't even tell myself it was real. Because the truth is, I'd started to get used to it. Room 109 changes you. The guy before me. There was a clipboard under the desk. Old, yellowed, covered in initials, check marks, and dates that went back at least 10 years. Maybe more. Only one name was circled in red ink. Ward, terminated 12/18/2016. I only found out more when I caught the janitor smoking behind the building one night. He was quiet, nervous, said he'd worked here too long. When I asked him what happened to Ward, he looked me dead in the eye and said, he looked at the feed too long, started seeing things in other places, like the room was following him. Said he saw himself sleeping inside it one night, said he heard laughter, but it sounded like him. Then he dropped the cigarette and walked off. Never spoke to me again. Part 5, The Face. Night 15. 03:13 a.m. The camera froze again, this time for 8 seconds. When it resumed, I didn't breathe, because I was staring at my own face on the monitor, not like a reflection, not like a security cam bouncing back. My face was in the room. I was standing in the center of room 109, perfectly still, eyes wide open, mouth half smiling like I just remembered a joke I wasn't supposed to share. The room around me looked different too, warped. The walls bent inward like a lens curling under heat. The corners of the ceiling were too far away, as if the geometry of the room had started lying. I reached for the power switch. My hand was shaking. But before I could touch it, my face on the screen blinked. Once, deliberately, at me. I shut everything down, left the building. Didn't go back for 3 days. They didn't fire me. They sent a single text, absence logged, resume tonight, 10 p.m. sharp. Part sig. The copy. When I came back, things had changed. The chair in the booth was warm before I sat down. There was a paper cup in the trash that wasn't mine, and the camera feed didn't show room 109 anymore. It showed a hallway. My hallway. I could see the front door of my apartment. At first I thought it was some glitch. Maybe I left my webcam on? Then I saw the man standing outside it. Still, facing the door. He looked like me. Only wrong. He stood too tall. His arms were just slightly too long. The way his head tilted was off, like he was listening to music only he could hear. He raised his hand. Knocked once. The monitor cut out. Part 7. The door opens. I didn't leave that night. I sat in the booth until the sun came up, watching the feed flicker between static and grainy shots of rooms that didn't exist. One showed the inside of a car filled with salt water. Another showed a hospital room with no walls, just a bed floating in white light, monitors blinking with no sound. Then room 109 came back, but it was open. The door. Wide open. The feed showed the hallway outside it, my hallway. The camera must have moved, or the room had. Maybe both, because room 109 was no longer in the building. It was following me. Part 8. The Inside Out. On night 21, I walked past the booth and stood in front of room 109's door. I didn't know why. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was testing the rules. Maybe I just needed to know. The red light above the door had gone out, and from the other side, I heard breathing. Not labored, not scared, slow, measured. Like someone practicing. I knocked once. The breathing stopped. Then a voice said my name. My voice. Part 9. The Room Without Walls. That was the last night I worked. I went home. I tried to sleep. I unplugged everything. I covered mirrors, blocked out the windows, refused to answer the phone when it rang at 3:13 a.m. But last night, I opened my closet and found room 109 inside. It's not a room anymore. Not really. It's a shape that remembers being a room. It unfolds like paper peeling into new dimensions. It hums. It listens. It wears my face better than I do, and every night it gets closer. Last night, I blinked. And when I opened my eyes, I was back in the booth, watching myself sit in an empty room, watching something crawl behind me, slow and silent, where no shadows should be. Script for the Archive of the Unspoken. If you found yourself staring too long into room 109, don't worry, you're not alone anymore. If this story stuck with you, tap like and comment below what you saw at 3:13 a.m. Subscribe to the Archive of the Unspoken for more long-form horror stories that watch you back. And remember, if you ever see your face somewhere it shouldn't be, don't blink.